Question 10, part A. On the diagram, mark the point A with a cross so that XYA is 63 degrees and YA is 7.2 centimetres. So the letters represent the vertices. So that means corners. So I've got X, which is here, this point. Then that goes to Y, which is this point. So when you see two letters, that means you formed a line. So you've got a point at the end and a point here. When you see more than two letters, it means you've started to form a shape. So this has three letters, so I'm going to end up having 3 points. So there's X, there's Y, and A is going to be somewhere up here, so I'm going to end up forming a triangle. So when I am measuring an angle, so this is 63 degrees, it's always the angle in the middle that I'm looking for, or they might represent it with a little roof, a little hat on. So it's the angle in the middle. So this is angle Y that measures 63 degrees, okay? So that's going to be the angle that is by that Y. And then the line YA is 7.2 centimetres. So the line that goes from Y up to wherever A is going to measure 7.2 centimetres. So I'm going to do a little sketch just to make sure that's right. So here is where my triangle is going to be. X is over here, Y is there, and A is going to be somewhere above. So XY up to A, that's angle Y here. This angle is going to measure 63 degrees. And then the line YA, that's going to measure 7.2 centimetres. So it's easier to measure the angle first. So this angle is 63 degrees. So I take my protractor and I make sure that this line is horizontal to my body to keep my protractor in the same position every time. And I put angle Y here. So I put the centre of my protractor at angle Y because that's what I need to be measuring. So centre of my protractor at angle Y. And I need to make sure that that is exactly in the centre, which it is. And I need to make sure that this line, the 0 line of my protractor, is touching that line, because that's where I'm measuring from. So right in the centre, and now that's perfect. This line is touching the line I'm measuring from. So that is pointing to this 0 here. The 0 over there is nowhere near what I'm measuring, so I'm counting from this scale, this 0, using the outside scale, because starting to count from 180 would be really, really silly. So if I'm measuring from 0 here, you can also remember it as your line is going to the left, so let's turn the light on. So your line is going to the left, so you're looking at the 0 to the left. So again, keep it nice and still. There's the 0, and I'm measuring 63 degrees. So here's 60, and each little line represents 1 degree. So I'm going to put a little line now. 1, 2, 3, where it's 63 degrees. Okay. Now I can take that protractor away, and I need to make sure that that line there, line YA, is 7.2 centimetres. So I take my ruler and I need to join this corner up with that line and make sure it's 7.2 centimetres. So this here needs to be at 7.2 and matched up with that line there. So take your time and make sure it's in the right place. There we go. And now I go to 0. Because obviously we're measuring from 0 to 7.2. Okay, so I could take that off now, and then the last bit is just joining up your corners to make the triangle. So it's a good idea at this point to double check that this measures 63 degrees. So if I put that there, it is perfect at 63 degrees. Now the examiner will allow you plus or minus 2 degrees, or plus or minus 2 millimeters. So that means you can have 61, 62, 63, 64 or 65 degrees and still get the mark for that bit there. And the line you need to measure is 7.2, which is also perfect to 7.2, but you'd be allowed 7.0, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3 and 7.4. So you'll get 1 mark for your, this is 7.2 centimeters. You get 1 mark for the correct angle and 1 mark for the correct line, giving you 2 in total. Part B, using a protractor, find the size of angle A. So as you can see here, this is a reflex angle. It's really flexible, the one on the outside. So you could see that this, right in the center, 0 on the 0 line, this up to this point is 180 degrees because it's a straight line. So my protractor only goes to 180 degrees. So I could see that that there is definitely going to be 180 degrees, this red bit. However, I'm missing this blue bit. So I could measure that and add it on to 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Again, I'm turning my page so we've got here, right in the center, the red line now is on my 0 because I'm measuring this blue section here. So it's this 0 I'm looking at. So I'm counting on the inside scale this time, and that there on the inside scale measures 140 degrees. So the blue part, turn this back around, is 140 degrees. So if I add those two up, the red and the blue, that should give me my final angle. So 180 degrees, add 140, gives me 320 degrees. You could do a little sum to help you there, or you could do it in your head. It's a good idea to double check. However, there is probably a much quicker way of doing that question, and that's actually to use some angle rules. So I know that around this point here, this is a circle, so they should add up to 360 degrees. So if all of that adds up to 360, all of that green bit, and this missing gap here, I could measure the missing gap and take it away from 360. So that there is going to be much easier to measure. I wouldn't have to split it into 180 and measure the two parts. I just measure this smaller angle, right in the center, 0 on the 0 line. So I'm pointing to this 0 now, so I'm using the inside scale. And that there measures up on the inside with 40 degrees. So if that inside bit is 40 degrees, if I take that away from 360, that should give me 320 degrees. So that was the quicker way of doing it, but either way is perfectly fine. And that there was just 1 mark for 320 degrees.